Tonight's story is not about monsters in the woods, not shadows under your bed, not even the whisper in your hallway when you're alone. It's about a man you've already seen. You didn't mean to. Maybe it was in a darkened phone screen or the corner of your laptop. Maybe you caught him in your reflection and forgot. But he remembers you. He only shows up in videos, never in person, never when you're watching, but always recording. So lay back, keep your screen dim, and whatever you do, try not to blink too long. This is the story of The Mirror Man Only Shows Up in Videos. Chapter 1. The Old Barn Footage. I didn't even notice him the first time. The camera had been rolling for nearly 12 minutes, just long enough for the cicadas to hum in waves and the twilight to swallow the trees outside the barn's open slats. I was reviewing old B-roll I'd shot for my cousin's low-budget documentary on Midwestern farming rituals. There was nothing particularly interesting about it, just the creak of an aging windmill, a rusted tractor slouched in weeds, dust in golden columns through the broken roof. Then something moved. I paused the footage, backed up 5 seconds. There, between the barn's leaning beams and the stacked hay bales was a figure, barely perceptible. He wasn't there in the first pass. I was sure of it. He wore a dark suit, not modern, something old, maybe Civil War era. His hands dangled at his sides like meat hooks, motionless. I squinted at the screen. He was staring, no, facing, the camera. His head tilted, just slightly, as if curious, like an animal unsure whether it had been seen. My stomach knotted. I checked the raw footage, full resolution, frame by frame. At second 7:12 he appeared, one frame, a flicker, like a skipped heartbeat. At second 7:13 he was gone. I hadn't seen him in person. Not while filming, but he was there. I told myself it was an artifact, a glitch, compression error. But the way he stood, unmoving, wrong in a way I couldn't articulate, made my skin itch. It didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like a secret. The barn was on the outskirts of Marrow's Edge, a nowhere town you won't find unless you're already lost. My cousin had inherited the land from a great-uncle none of us remembered meeting. The barn had been untouched for decades. There were legends about it, of course. Places like that always have them. Stories traded over cigarettes and beers. One local said the barn had once been a spirit box, something used in old rituals to trap ghosts. Another swore a widow used to leave plates of raw meat under the eaves every new moon, whispering prayers to the rafters. But most people just said the place felt heavy. I returned the next evening, camera in hand. Sunset again. I was alone, but I spoke aloud, narrating like I was filming. Day 2, returning to the Wills barn. Unexplained anomaly on previous footage. Attempting to replicate, a shadow moved in the corner of my eye. I whipped around. Nothing. Just trees, dying light, and the barn's gaping mouth. Inside it smelled of mildew and mice. Dust floated like breath. I set the camera up in the exact spot, same angle, same lens, hit record. Sat in silence, 5 minutes, 10. Nothing. No flicker, no man. I walked to the corner where I'd seen him, the dark place between the beams. I held my phone flashlight up. Dust shimmered. Then I noticed it. Scratched into the wood, deep and deliberate, was a series of vertical lines. Not just scratches. Marks. A tally. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Some clustered so tight they blurred into gouged scars, and beneath the marks a small metal object was nailed into the beam. I pried it free. A hand mirror, cracked, and on the back etched in jittery looping letters. He only shows up in mirrors and in video. Never real. Never gone. That night I rewatched the footage again. Nothing on day 2, but I pulled up the original, day 1. And this time when I slowed it to 0.25x speed, I saw more. At second 7:12.03, the figure appeared again, same posture, but now there was a glimmer, a faint outline behind him, as if the air itself was rippling. His face was obscured, blurred, but the way he stood, it was as if he knew, like he waited to be seen. I paused, rewound. This time I tried something else. I set my phone beside the laptop, angled toward the screen, started recording the playback, and in the phone video, on the reflection of the laptop screen, his head turned. Only in the reflection, not in the source footage. I dropped the phone. When I picked it up again, the recording was corrupted, just a black screen and static hiss. But over the noise, just faintly, I heard breathing. I didn't sleep. I kept my lights on. closed every mirror in the house, shut the laptop, put the cracked hand mirror under my bed. At 2:14 a.m. my phone buzzed, unknown number, no message. Then it buzzed again. A video file, no sender, no context, just 14 seconds long. I hesitated, thumb hovering. Then I played it, grainy footage, the inside of my house, my kitchen, from a high angle, like a security camera I didn't own. In the centre of the frame was my fridge. Beside it, just barely visible in the corner, stood him, the mirror man, suit soaked black, hands at his sides, head bowed. In the reflection of the fridge's chrome surface, he was smiling. I threw my phone across the room. The video vanished. I couldn't find it again. It didn't save. I'm not sure who sent it, or if it was ever really there. But tonight, when I opened my laptop, just for a second, I caught a glimpse of something behind me in the screen's reflection. Not in the room, just on the screen. A shape, watching, waiting. Chapter 2. The Silence Between Frames. The next morning, I unplugged everything. The TV, the router, the microwave with its glossy chrome finish. I covered the bathroom mirror with a towel and turned my laptop toward the wall. I tried to tell myself it was temporary, just until I could think straight. But something deep inside me knew better. There's a moment, just after waking, when the mind hasn't decided what's real, when dreams bleed into daylight and everything is soft, open. That's when I saw him. Not in a mirror, not on a screen, in the window glass. I was brushing my teeth, glancing absently at the kitchen window over the sink. The world beyond it was grey and still, but my reflection wasn't mine. It was wearing a suit. I dropped the toothbrush, spun around, nothing. When I looked back, it was my reflection again, pale, shaking, alone. But the sensation didn't pass. You know that feeling, when you think someone's looking at you? When your skin tightens, your instincts scream, that primal thing that's never wrong? It followed me all day. Every reflective surface now felt like a door. I tried to research him. There was nothing in books, nothing on folklore forums. But when I searched man who only shows up in mirrors, I found a thread on a dead message board dated June 3rd, 2009. User, title, he lives in the reflection between frames. Don't record him. Don't look at footage. The more you see, the more real he gets. He was a watcher once. Now he's a walker. You'll know it's bad when you see his mouth move. I stared at those words for hours. They shouldn't have shaken me, but something about them felt true. I tried to message the user. The site was long abandoned, their account deactivated. But when I checked the metadata on the forum's user list, I found something strange. The last login for V Deadeyes was yesterday. That night, I locked my phone in a drawer, left my laptop shut. I sat in bed and watched the shadows crawl up the wall. At 3:01 a.m., my closet light flicked on. I don't have a closet light. I live in a one-room flat. The closet is just a curtain over a wall nook. No bulb, no wiring. I sat frozen, watching the glow seep through the fabric. Then, softly, metal clinked. A sound I recognized. The frame of my camera tripod. It had been in storage for days. I stood, heart thudding, and reached for the bat I kept by my bed. The curtain moved, not like wind, like breath. I ripped it open. Nothing. No light, no tripod, just dust and coats. But on the floor was a small, cracked hand mirror, not the one I'd found in the barn. This one was new. It hadn't been there before. Etched into the back were words, "You are now recording." The next morning, I didn't bother with coffee. I went back to the barn. I needed to know, needed answers. The place felt colder this time, not by temperature, by silence, like the air had thickened. I walked the perimeter, every corner. No mirror, no strange symbols. But near the haystack, I found something that hadn't been there before. An old camcorder. VHS. Still running. The red light blinked steadily. I picked it up. The tape whirred. Time-stamped footage from just an hour earlier. But I'd only just arrived. I hit rewind. At the 32 mark, the screen went dark. A shape moved toward the lens. Him. The mirror man. Except he wasn't in the barn. He was in my apartment. I recognized the couch, the lamp, the window. He stood over my bed, watched me sleep, and in the reflection on the glass of the picture frame on the wall, his mouth moved. I dropped the camcorder. The tape snapped in protest. A low hum vibrated in the air. Not sound. Vibration. Like a tuning fork struck inside my skull. I turned. In the shadows between slats of light, he was standing. Still, closer than he'd ever been, but not in reality, not really. Only in the video I just watched. And still I felt him, like heat behind glass. My own reflection in the camcorder's broken viewfinder flickered, then smiled. I ran, not back home. I didn't know where to go, but I ran through cornfields and gravel, my breath ragged, until my legs gave out. When I collapsed, I noticed my phone in my pocket. I hadn't meant to take it. There was a video already playing. No notification, no timestamp, just footage of me, running, filmed from behind. And there was a voice layered under the wind noise. He's not behind you. He's inside the lens now. You're always recording. You've always been seen. Chapter 3. The Noise Beneath the Skin. I destroyed the phone, smashed it on the asphalt until the screen caved and the battery bled out like a dying heart. I didn't care what I lost. Contacts, photos, the little digital breadcrumbs of my old life. All of it meant nothing now. All of it had already been seen. But even as the device hissed and flickered out, I could still feel him watching. Not from behind me, not even from the broken phone, from somewhere underneath, like he'd sunk into the floorboards of my life, like he was pressing his face up through the cracks, stretching the wood, waiting. That night I slept without light. I'd covered every reflective surface, foil on the TV, towels on the windows, even the stainless faucet bent into a dull mat with sandpaper. But it didn't help. The dreams came, and I swear they were his. I saw things I shouldn't have been able to imagine, movements that didn't make sense, bones bending inward, skin pulling back in silent recoil. The mirror man stood in front of me in that dream, if it was a dream, but he didn't move like a person. His body was stiff, trembling like a film reel stuck between frames. He stepped forward, but each step seemed to repeat itself, like time glitching. His foot landed, then landed again and again. One motion, 3 echoes. His head, God, his head. It didn't turn. It peeled. His face began to shift, not by muscle, but by layers, sliding like overlapping panes of glass, as if his skin was made of thin, wet mirror. Every movement caused tiny fractures. I could see his reflection within himself, infinite and trembling, his mouth unstitched sideways, split like paper tearing from the corners. Inside there were no teeth, just rows of silver surfaces, twitching like insect wings. A low noise filled the space, neither a growl nor a breath, but something closer to an old dial-up modem trying to scream. I tried to run, but my legs felt bound, not by ropes, by memory. And then he leaned in. He didn't touch me. He reflected me. I saw myself on his skin, and what I saw wasn't me anymore. My face was twitching, melting. My mouth was hanging open wider than it should go. My eyes were filled with light, cold, white, awful light. I woke up gagging, not from fear, from the taste in my throat, bitter metal like old pennies soaked in vinegar. I ran to the kitchen, spat into the sink, blood, not mine. It was too dark. I checked my mouth, my gums, nothing bleeding. But when I looked at my tongue, there was something etched into it. Tiny impressions, numbers. I recognized it immediately, a timestamp. I ran to the bedroom, dug through my backpack, found the shattered camcorder tape. I still had the casing, though the tape itself had snapped. I spliced it the best I could. Rented a VHS player from the pawn shop, told the guy it was for a college project. He didn't ask. I played the tape, at 6 minutes, 13 seconds, static. Then just a single frame. The mirror man again. But now his body was bloated, distorted. His limbs weren't in the right places anymore. His arms seemed to sprout from his sides like wings that had grown wrong. The skin was stretched, veined like old milk. Swollen joints pressed against the surface like bubbles under wallpaper. And his face was mine. Not exactly. It was my expression, warped, my eyes in the wrong sockets, my jaw unhinged, pulled wide to fit more mirror. The longer I looked, the more I noticed the movement within him. His skin wasn't solid, it crawled, pressed out from the inside, as if something lived beneath the mirrored flesh, trapped there, twisting for release. Then the frame jumped. I blinked. And in that blink, he turned his head, just enough to meet my eyes. And this time I saw something inside his mouth. Not mirrors, not teeth. Hands. Small, white, twitching hands, reaching out. I shut the player off. My vision pulsed. My stomach twisted like it wanted to escape me, but the mirror in the hallway buzzed. It actually buzzed like something electronic, a high-pitched whine, like feedback from a microphone too close to a speaker. I approached, slowly. Every instinct in me said no. The sheet I'd covered it with was vibrating slightly. I pulled it off. There was no reflection, just blackness, like a tunnel, deep and hollow and alive. I leaned closer, and it leaned back, not me. Him. Body stuttering through time. He raised a hand and pressed it against the inside of the glass. Then, impossibly, fingers began pushing through, like pressing wet clay from behind plastic wrap. 5 digits. Then a wrist, veins pulsing, skin smeared with a silver sheen. He was coming through. I screamed. Threw the mirror down. It didn't shatter. It cracked once, loud and deep, and then fell silent. When I picked it up again, the glass was intact. But in the lower right corner, a timestamp was burned into the reflection. I don't know what happens then. I don't know what he wants. But I've unplugged everything again, covered the mirrors, and I'm not sleeping tonight. Because when I do, I dream his bones into place. And every time I wake up, there's something more of him in my room. I saw a patch of skin on the ceiling yesterday. It looked like mine, looked like it had a mouth. Chapter 4. I stayed awake. Every light on. Stove light, closet light, bathroom light. I even turned on the flashlight app on my old backup phone, faced it toward the ceiling. I kept the broken camcorder beside me like it was a weapon. I had a knife too, just a kitchen one. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it, stab a reflection, cut through a dream, but I needed to feel like I could do something. Anything. The clock on my microwave blinked, 3:41 a.m., then 42, and time started to slow. Not literally, I don't think, but every second got longer, not because they were, but because I could hear them. The seconds, not the ticking of the clock, like wet footsteps just outside the apartment, like something dragging a mirror across pavement. I pressed my back to the wall. I didn't blink. I barely breathed. The mirrors were covered. The laptop was closed. The TV unplugged. I had cut the cords. 3:44 a.m. Nothing happened. At first, then the microwave light flickered. That same frequency, that quiet, sickening buzz, like the room had tinnitus. Then I smelled it. Metal and mold, like rotting pennies. I turned toward the kitchen slowly. The oven door was cracked open. I never use it. It hadn't been opened in weeks, but now it was. And in the glass of the oven window, something moved. I crouched low, angled myself so I wouldn't see the full reflection, just the corner. That was enough. The mirror man was inside the reflection, but not standing. He was curled, folded like a fetus, his limbs tucked, his spine twisted up against the oven glass like he'd been stuffed in backwards. His face was turned away, but I could see his back, or what used to be a back. It was seamed. Down the center, his skin split open in a thin vertical line, just a slit, and from inside that slit something pulsed, like a slow, rhythmic breath. Then he unfolded. That's the only way I can describe it. Like paper being smoothed. He turned toward me in the reflection, bit by bit, his body stretching through the reflection, not in one motion, but in a series of overlapping frames. Like he was passing through film. His mouth didn't move, but something beneath the skin did. His jaw quivered, almost dislocated, and I could feel the words. Not hear them, feel them. You saw me first. I blinked, and in that single blink, he was gone. The oven door closed itself. The light stopped buzzing. 3:45 a.m. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. I sat with the knife in my hand and the flashlight on until sunrise. And when I opened my eyes, if I even closed them at all, I noticed something different. My reflection in the faucet. It was off, only slightly. I turned my head to the right. The reflection lagged by half a second. Later that day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. The voicemail was only 5 seconds long, just static. But buried under the noise, when I slowed it down in editing software, I found it, frame by frame. My voice, whispering. You're not recording anymore, he is. I left the apartment, drove out to the lake 30 miles north where I knew there'd be no mirrors, no windows, just water and wind. But the thing is, water reflects too. I stared at the lake's surface, still as glass. For a long time I saw nothing but trees and sky. Then the water rippled. No wind, no fish, just a single pulse, a shape blurred beneath the surface. Not swimming, hovering. I leaned closer, and there he was, not standing, not curled. Kneeling, like in prayer. His face was clear now, not mine, not entirely. It was a blend of faces, mine, my cousin's, my mother's, all the people who had filmed him. And his mouth was stitched with film tape. Each time he tried to open it, the reel snapped tighter. His jaw bulged unnaturally, the corners cracking, but still he strained like he had to say something. Then the surface rippled again, and I saw something even worse. In my reflection above him, my own mouth was moving too. I hadn't spoken, I hadn't said anything, but in the reflection I was whispering something. I turned and ran. But even now, even with no screens, no mirrors, no phones, I can still feel him. There's something under my skin, a noise I can't explain, like static, like something's trying to record. And this morning when I looked in the microwave glass again, just a glance, I saw it, a red recording light, blinking from inside my reflection. Chapter 5. Playback. I stopped trusting glass altogether. Windows, water, chrome, even the glaze on my own fingernails under fluorescent light. Everything became suspect. The reflections were always a beat too slow, the lighting slightly off, or worse, not mine. They started to feel less like reflections and more like delays, like something was watching me move, then mimicking the motion with a second's hesitation. I wasn't looking at myself anymore. I was watching a copy catch up, and every copy is a little less real. I hadn't touched a recording device in days. I didn't even own a mirror anymore, not one intact. But the red blinking light kept following me. I began seeing it in strange places, a coffee pot in a diner window, a drop of rain on a bus shelter, even the curved eye of a dead beetle on my windowsill. Always blinking, always aimed at me. And when it blinked, I could feel something in my teeth. A pressure, a soundless vibration, like the room had swallowed a dial tone. My jaw would tighten, my gums ache, and then I'd smell that metallic rot again, like rusted iron and vinegar. The worst came last night. I woke up to the sound of my own voice. Except I wasn't speaking. I was lying in bed, mouth shut, holding my breath like a child pretending sleep could shield them from monsters. But in the next room, on the other side of the wall, my voice was playing, soft, broken, muted, like through cheap speakers. He came through when I blinked. He saw my face and took the parts he needed. Then laughter, not loud, not manic, just wrong, like an imitation of human joy. I crept out of bed, holding my breath, knife in hand again, though I knew it would do nothing. The sound came from my coat closet. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence, then a click, the unmistakable sound of a camcorder powering on. I threw the door open. Nothing. No recorder, no speaker, just a pile of coats and the flashlight I thought I'd lost 2 days ago. Except now the flashlight didn't shine. It blinked, red, 3 slow pulses, then off. And when I picked it up, it was warm, alive warm, like holding something that had just been breathing. I don't know when it started happening exactly, but now, when I blink, things shift. Objects move slightly. The frame of the world adjusts. My coat hangs on the wrong peg. The cupboard door opens a hair more. A shoe turns inward that had been pointing out. And my reflection, when I risk catching it, stays looking at me just a second longer than it should. It's as if I'm falling out of sync with myself. 2 nights ago, I finally fell asleep from exhaustion, and I had a dream. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe I just woke up somewhere else. I was in a black room. Not dark, black. No walls, no edges. Just emptiness. In front of me was a television, an old one, with dials and static fuzzing across the screen, and it was playing footage of me. But it wasn't footage I'd ever taken. It was intimate, private. Me brushing my teeth, me singing low while folding laundry, me crying once quietly after a phone call I never told anyone about. And in the background of every clip he was closer. Not obvious, just there, reflected in doorknobs, bent inside coffee mugs, even in my pupils if you paused it at the right second. And as the reel played on, my movements began to change. The footage of me lagged. Then, on the tape, I turned and looked directly into the camera, and I whispered, "I'm not recording anymore. He is." I woke up with blood in my mouth. My tongue was swollen, like something had been pressing on it all night. I looked in the mirror above my stove, the last shard I hadn't torn down, and I saw writing there. not on the glass. On my tongue, stamped like a watermark. I drove to a clinic, told the doctor I bit it in my sleep. He examined it, shrugged, said it would heal. But as he turned to scribble notes, I caught my reflection in the glass of the medical cabinet. He wasn't in it. I wasn't either. The reflection was just the room, empty chair, tools, the same scene, but no me. I stood there looking in for a long time, and then I walked into the reflection. Not me physically, just the reflection version. I stepped into frame, looked at the seat where I should be, sat down, folded my hands and smiled, a slow, broken smile that wasn't mine. Then the reflection flickered, and I was back. But I swear I felt someone else blinking behind my eyes. That night, the blinking red light followed me to my dreams again, only this time it was embedded in my chest. A small lens, right where my heart should be. It was recording, and I think it always had been. Chapter 6, The Frame He Left Behind. I've stopped saying things out loud. Words feel dangerous now. They echo too long. They twist when they come back. I've started to hear myself say things I didn't say in recordings I never made. When I speak, it's like opening a door I can't close. So now I write everything down. It's safer, for now. Something is happening to my body. It started small. A tightness behind my ears, like someone pressing two cold fingers there. Then this morning, I looked at my thumbnail and noticed the reflection on it didn't line up. The lighting was wrong. There was a shadow behind me in the nail that didn't exist in the room. I cut the nail off with clippers. No blood. But beneath the nail, there was another nail. Thinner, translucent, like a second layer growing beneath the first. And I swear it pulsed, just once. I haven't slept properly in 3 days. I feel it in my bones, but I can't stop. If I sleep, I'll dream. If I dream, he'll film. I caught myself checking my reflection in a dark window at 2 a.m., not to see if he was there, but to see if I still was. And I was. But I looked wrong. My smile didn't match. My teeth were longer, or maybe closer together, like they were growing inward toward each other. And my eyes, they weren't looking back at me. They were looking slightly above me, like someone was standing behind me just out of sight. Today I tried something. I set up an old mirror in the hallway, sat in front of it, closed my eyes, counted to 100. When I opened them, the reflection was still, but I wasn't in it. He was, bent, crumpled, kneeling backward, his face pressed against the glass like he was trying to come through head first, but he was stuck. His jaw had dislocated completely, hanging open like a wet curtain. Inside his mouth there was a tiny rusted lens. It rotated, clicked softly, a red light blinked, and inside that lens I could see my apartment. Not as it was, as it will be. The lights off, the walls cracked, the floor warped, a single chair in the centre of the room, and someone, me, sitting in it. Head tilted back, eyes white, mouth open, and the mirror man standing behind. His hand resting gently on my shoulder like we were old friends. I screamed and smashed the mirror. Glass sprayed across the floor, but even in the shards, he stayed whole, reflected fully in each piece, his body contorted to match the angles, and in every sliver his mouth was moving. I swept it all up, tossed it outside, but I kept one piece, the smallest, about the size of a coin. I taped it to the wall and stared at it for hours. I needed to see what would happen. Around midnight, the glass began to fog from the inside. A small breath mark appeared. Then a fingertip smeared a message in the condensation. One word, playback. The camcorder I thought I'd thrown away was sitting on my kitchen table again. I didn't bring it there, but it was open. Recording light off, tape inside. I hit play. The footage showed my apartment, dim lighting, a familiar silence. Then I stepped into frame, or something that looked like me. But it moved wrong, like each motion had been edited in after. Frame by frame, a stop-motion puppet that looked exactly like my skin. I watched myself itself sit at the kitchen table, open a notebook, begin to write. Word for word, this entry. As I watched, the version of me looked up suddenly, right into the lens, and said, "He's almost through." Then the footage glitched, the image froze, and the sound continued, soft breathing, then something wet, slithering, like someone dragging a tongue over cold glass. I haven't stopped shaking. I haven't spoken in hours. But my voice recorder, yes, the one I haven't touched in days, just started itself. I heard the beep from across the room. It's recording. I don't know what it's capturing. I'm not saying anything, but I can hear something breathing in the playback already. It sounds like it's in the room with me, and when I slow the audio down, I can make out the words, "You're not being watched. You're being rendered." Chapter 7. I didn't leave the apartment today. I told myself it was for safety, that going outside risked seeing myself reflected in car windows, puddles, shop glass. But I think it's more than that now. I think I'm starting to believe that what's inside this place, the mirrors, the footage, the blinking light, knows I won't run anymore, because I can feel it settling. Like dust, like it's been here longer than I have. This morning I noticed something new. My skin. On my arms, just beneath the surface, thin veins of silver have begun to spiderweb outward. Not blue, not bruised, shiny. At first I thought it was an illusion, the way sunlight bounced off my sweat, but it didn't wipe away. It shimmered like someone had poured mercury beneath my skin. And when I held my phone's dead screen up to it, just for a second, just to check, there it was. In the reflection of my forearm, where the veins pulsed beneath, a red light, blinking. Not on the phone. Inside me. The body doesn't lie, it warns. The itching started in my jaw next. Deep under the molars, a kind of pressure, like my bones were remembering something my brain had forgotten. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, the one I swore I'd removed, and stared into my open mouth. My tongue looked normal, but the back of my throat twitched, not gag reflex. Movement. I leaned in, closer, closer. My breath fogged the mirror. Then I saw it. Something glimmered at the root of my tongue. A lens. Small, black, embedded in the flesh like a seed trying to bloom. When I coughed, it clicked once, and the fog on the mirror shivered. I couldn't scream. Not because I was scared, though I was, because I no longer trusted my voice to be mine. Last time I screamed, the playback came back wrong. Slower, deeper. A laugh hidden inside the scream like a parasite in the flesh of a fruit. Now I only write and whisper. When I must. Tonight I tried to film myself sleeping. I know how that sounds, but I needed to know if it was me getting up in the night or something else. I set up the old camcorder on a tripod, hit record, laid on the couch in my clothes, eyes wide. I pretended to sleep. For 4 hours I didn't move. Then, just past 3 a.m., I blinked. Only once, and the red recording light turned off on its own. The tape ejected itself. I didn't move, but I heard the whir of the machine, then the soft click of the lens cap closing. When I stood to check, the camera was already powered down, and in the corner of the room where the mirror used to be, something shimmered, a reflection, not of the room, of something beneath it, a crawl space that doesn't exist, a dark hallway lined with televisions, each screen showing me. At different times, different angles, in different states of decay, one where my jaw unhinges, one where my left eye leaks blood, one where my skin peels off in mirrored sheets, and in every clip he stands behind me, growing clearer. I blinked again, and this time I was inside the footage. I was standing in that hallway. The TVs buzzed softly. I walked past one showing me asleep, another with me shaving, another brushing my teeth, but the reflection in the mirror showed my back. Then the last screen, black at first, then it lit up. Footage of now, me watching the screen, and the mirror man behind me, close. So close I could feel the heat of his skin, if he even had skin. I turned. He didn't move, but his mouth was opening again, not down, not sideways. Outward. The lips split in 4 directions, petal-like, and from inside another face pushed forward, not his, not mine. Someone else's. Eyes bulging, mouth sewn shut with tiny silver threads, and its tears ran backward, upward, defying gravity, returning into its eyes. I screamed. No sound came out. Only static. When I woke up, the camcorder was gone. In its place was a note, folded, typed. "You're doing well. Just a few frames left." I looked at my hand. The veins had gone from silver to glass, thin channels of mirrored surface tracing up my wrist, splitting at the knuckles like rivers. When I pressed my finger into the skin, I could feel heat, like a device running in standby, always on, always recording. I can't leave the apartment anymore, not because I'm scared, because I think if I do, the footage will stop. And that's what he doesn't want. I think I'm being kept alive to finish the rendering, to finish becoming watchable. And when the last frame finishes, I don't think there'll be anything of me left. Chapter 8, Artifacts. There are glitches now. Not in the tapes, not in the mirrors, in me. My memory, I'll think I've said something aloud, but people, if I'm still talking to people, stare like I haven't spoken. Other times I stay silent, and they respond, like they've heard a line I haven't delivered yet. It's like I'm living a few frames ahead of myself, or behind, or out of sync altogether. I feel edited. Yesterday I found a scar behind my right ear. Clean, precise, surgical. I don't remember it being there. I don't remember any pain, but when I pressed it, something under the skin clicked, and for one brief second, the world dimmed, like someone adjusted the contrast. Everything looked flatter. My hands lost colour. The ceiling fan slowed, then looped its movement, around, back again. I blinked and it stopped, but the scar burned for hours. I think he's been inside me longer than I've known. When I sat down at my desk today, the lights in the apartment buzzed like usual, but something was different. The hum didn't come from the walls, it came from me. I leaned close to a glass of water and listened. The sound was inside my throat, low, pulsulating, like a tape being played at half speed. I opened my mouth, not to speak, just to see, and the water began to ripple. I grabbed a pair of tweezers and did something I still can't believe. I reached into my mouth past the tongue under it and felt around. There was a hard edge, cold, smooth, like metal. I pinched it and pulled. Something shifted deep in my throat. No pain, just pressure, like pulling out a wire snagged in a tunnel. Then it came loose, a fragment of it, thin, curved, as if it had once been part of a lens. I dropped it into the sink and retched. Blood ran, but not mine. Too dark, too oily. It smelled like burnt hair and wet copper. The mirror fragment pulsed once, like a heartbeat, then stilled. Later, I found a file on my old laptop, dated 3 years ago. I don't remember creating it, don't remember ever owning the camcorder it references, but the file was mine, titled Artifact and Full Render.mov. I opened it. It was footage of me, not just sleeping, decaying, time-lapsed like a documentary on rot, skin collapsing, eyes yellowing, hair thinning, but through all of it the red light kept blinking. At the end, my jaw opened, and the mirror man crawled out, like I'd been housing him the whole time. There was a second file, hidden in a subfolder I don't remember creating, just an audio track. File name, lastwords.wave. I played it, and this is what I heard. You are not being watched. You are not being remembered. You are being preserved for playback. Then silence. Then a slow inhale, like someone waking up behind the microphone. I unplugged the laptop, but even powered off, the screen glowed faintly, and in the reflection, just for a breath, I saw him. Not behind me, not on the screen, inside the glass. His body stretching, bones too long, arms pulled behind his back like a broken puppet, and his face, it was cleaner now, not glitched, not flickering, rendered, complete. That's when it hit me. He's not trying to kill me. He's trying to finish me. Every recording, every mirrored image, every time I looked at myself through a lens, he's been building a version of me, a replacement. And once it's done, once I'm fully rendered, I won't be needed anymore. Tonight I found something carved into the drywall behind the refrigerator. A symbol. 3 overlapping eyes, one turned upside down, the center pupil drawn as a red dot, underneath scratched in deep letters. When you see yourself move before you move, it's almost time. I'm afraid to blink, afraid to sleep, afraid that when I finally finish rendering I won't know, because he will be using my face, and I'll just be another corrupted file, left behind, unplayable. Chapter 9, the playback body. My body is starting to repeat itself. I noticed it 2 nights ago. I was sitting in the hallway, staring at the coin-sized mirror shard I had taped to the wall, the one I promised myself I'd throw away. The only light came from the street lamp filtering through the curtains. I exhaled. Then I heard it again. A second breath. Not echo. Repetition. Like a playback out of sync. I held my palm in front of my face, raised my fingers one by one, and in the mirror shard my reflection moved twice. Once with me, and once a moment later, like the action had been recorded and was now being replayed in my skin. I tried to ignore it, focus, keep grounded. I started reading again, folk tales, strange local superstitions, anything I could find on reflections and duplicates and possession through imagery. But none of it helped. Because none of those old stories imagined a thing that could record you from the inside. A thing that learned you, that refined your edges, cleaned your glitches, and rendered you again. This morning, I caught myself talking to no one, not thinking aloud, responding. I was sitting at the kitchen table, scratching at the soft veined glass patterns spreading under my wrists, and I heard a voice behind me ask, "Does it hurt yet?" I didn't question it. I just said, "Only when I blink." When I realized I'd answered without fear, I felt sick. Like some part of me already accepts him, already wants to finish the transformation. I looked down. The skin around my nails had turned pale, thin, like clear rubber stretched too tight. Beneath it I saw flickers of movement, not muscle, not blood, something mechanical. Footage. It was playing beneath my skin. Frames of my past, flickering like a zoetrope. Me brushing my hair. Me laughing in childhood. Me looking into a mirror I no longer own. My memories running just beneath the surface of my body. And all of them had one thing in common. The mirror man was already there. Watching, waiting, just outside the edges of each frame. I set up a camera again. I had to know. I needed proof. I needed to see how much of me was still me. I filmed myself sitting, staring straight ahead for an hour. Then I reviewed the footage. The first 10 minutes were normal, but slowly, frame by frame, I began to notice artifacts, static around my eyes, lines of distortion at my jaw. Then my body skipped. My head jerked back slightly, like someone had hit rewind and played it again at half speed. And then a second version of me walked into the frame, sat beside me, and began to speak. I muted the video. I didn't want to hear it. Not yet. I needed to brace myself. When I turned the audio back on, I heard my voice, but wrong, hollow. "You're watching a playback, but the recording never stops. You thought he came through the mirror. You were always inside it." Then both versions of me, on screen, turned to look at the camera, and in unison said, "You blinked and he took the keyframe." I shut the laptop, threw it in the tub, turned the faucet on. Water hissed over it, but even as the steam rose, I swear I heard the fan kick on. And from the drain, a red light began to glow, pulsing. 1, 2, 3 times. Then a click, and a reflection appeared in the faucet's curve. He was back, but not just him. This time he looked like me. Better than me, sharper, more symmetrical, the version of me I've never actually been but must have once imagined, rendered, complete, and his mouth didn't move. Mine did. I stared into the sink for hours, watched myself smile when I didn't feel like smiling, tilt my head when I remained still. Then I whispered, "What happens when you're finished?" The reflection responded, not with sound, with movement. It placed a hand over its chest, then pulled. Slowly, it peeled back the skin from the sternum like film being stripped from a reel, and inside there was nothing. No heart, no lungs, no bone. Just a cavern, a dark chamber filled with footage, endless reels of my life, each one labelled, each one still playing, and at the far end, barely visible, a mirror. I understood then. He wasn't trying to become me. He was archiving me, piece by piece, until the only version left was his. I haven't blinked in over 2 hours. My eyes burn, my vision swims. But I know the second I do it, the very moment my lid's shut, he'll take another frame, another piece. And when the last frame is taken, I don't think there'll be anything left to render, just playback. Chapter 10, Final Render. I blinked, once, and when I opened my eyes, the world was no longer mine. It started slow. A soft shimmering in the edges of vision, like heat on asphalt. My kitchen walls seemed to bend inward, gently bowing around me, like they were leaning in to listen. The clock ticked, but without rhythm, a few seconds in rapids, a long pause, then silence. I stood from the couch, and my feet made no sound on the floor, no creak, no heel strike, only playback. The lights in the apartment dimmed, not from lack of power, but from choice, and then the hum returned, not in the walls, not in the air, in me. A low mechanical resonance that I could feel in my teeth, in the bones of my hands, in the space between thoughts. The sound of a machine warming up, of something preparing to capture. I walked to the hallway mirror. There shouldn't have been one. It had been shattered for days. But there it was, tall, spotless, waiting. My reflection looked up before I did. Its eyes were clearer than mine. Skin unblemished, the silver-veined patterns beneath its flesh glistened like veins made of mercury. It smiled, and I didn't. "You're done," it said. Not aloud. The words arrived in my head like a subtitle I never saw appear. Then my reflections stepped out of sync. Not a glitch, not a flicker, a choice. It moved before I did, tilted its head while mine stayed still. Then it opened its arms, welcoming me. I should have run, should have fought, screamed, broken everything I could. But I didn't, because something inside me had grown quiet, like the final piece had slotted into place. There was no resistance left. I had been watched long enough. I had learned to watch myself. And then the world stuttered, a true absolute glitch. The paint on the walls bled in reverse. The fridge door opened and closed twice. Time reversed and replayed again, briefly, exactly, efficiently. A perfect loop. And from the mirror he emerged, the Mirror Man. Not as a horror, not as a distortion, as a product. Sleek, unflinching, hands now folded, no longer twitching, his face mine, but stripped of all uncertainty. He looked at me like he had just been unboxed, like he was fresh, ready, marketable. And for the first time, I understood. He wasn't haunting me. He was replacing me. My phone buzzed. A message. No number. Just a link. I clicked it without thinking. A video began to play. Title, Found Footage, the man who filmed himself into oblivion. Length, 3,983,200 uploaded 2 hours ago. I watched myself walk through my apartment. Cut vegetables. Laugh at a voicemail. Cry quietly while reading a letter. Moments I never recorded. Moments I don't remember doing. And in every shot, he was there, reflected, growing clearer, until at the 9:59 mark he turns fully to the lens, raises a hand and whispers on perfect audio, "Render complete." My screen went black. Then I saw myself. Not a video, not a reflection, just me. Sitting on the couch, and across from me, him, watching me with my own eyes, recording, not with a camera, with being. He is now what the world sees, and I am the static beneath it. They say ghosts are just memories caught in a loop. Then what does that make me? What does that make you reading this? Because if you're seeing these words, he's already rendered me into your memory. And the red light, it's blinking again, but not here. Where you are. Look around. Check your screen. Did you blink? Render successful. Rah! You may now begin recording. The recording has stopped, or so it seems. You made it through the story, through the static, through the playback. But if you listen carefully, you may still hear it, the low hum in the room, the soft clicking behind your eyelids when you blink. That red light, the one you thought was off, it might still be on, so sleep if you can. But remember, he only shows up in videos, and he shows up more clearly every time you dream. Good night. And thank you for watching.